Welcome back. In this video you will learn about the NLP Communication Model and how to use it. Just to give you a heads up, this topic covers a lot of information and therefore this video is worth listening to a couple of times so you get a good understanding. It's probably the most important model of NLP. Let's take a look. The NLP Communication Model is a practical model that helps us understand how we can communicate more effectively with other people and is a map of subjective experience. The NLP Communication Model describes how we process information from the outside world. At any one point in time, we take in millions of bits of information into our brain, and we do this through our 5 senses. Through our eyes, visual, through our ears, auditory, through our feelings and touch, kinesthetic, through our noses, olfactory, and through our tastes, gustatory. Each of these senses are limited neurologically. For example, think about a dog's use of smell to perceive their environment. They possess up to 300 million olfactory receptors in their noses, compared to about 6 million in us. In fact, it's been estimated that dogs can smell anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 times better than people. It is these neurological constraints that challenge our ability to observe reality completely. To help us make sense of this world and prepare for different situations that we face, we filter vast amounts of information. The 3 basic filters are deletion, distortion and generalization. Deletion is when we selectively pay attention to certain dimensions and exclude others. Without deletion, we would be faced with too much information. An example of which is when you sit down and watch an opera or a stage show. You become transfixed with what's on stage and filter out or delete the people in the audience. Deletion reduces our world to proportions that we feel capable of handling. Deletion may be useful or not depending on its application. Shutting out background voices may be useful in order to think. However, filtering out people's voices can make you miss important information or an important message. Deletion has to do with where we focus our attention and where it is not. This can simply come down to our goal-orientated focus. Distortion occurs when we misrepresent reality by making shifts in our experience of sensory data. It's how we change our experience. Distortion, like deletion, is neither good nor bad. It may actually make you unhappy or paranoid, but it's also the basis for artistic talent and creative thinking. Distortion supports your ability to explore your inner world, your dreams and imagination. This is great when we want to be creative or imagine a variety of future events. The problem is that distortion does not represent the truth. It just represents our perception. Here's a personal example. When I partake in trail running, I often run along forest paths and trails. On numerous occasions, I have thought I have seen a snake. However, upon arriving at the spot, I discovered it's only a stick. Finally, generalizations. Generalizations are when you take 1 or 2 examples of something and assume that it represents the group universally. Do you know someone who has one experience and forms an opinion about all similar experiences? For example, a person fails to get a job at an interview, and so they say that they are not good at interviews. Generalization is the basis for learning and helps us build a cognitive map of the world. It helps us class things and place single chunks of information into categories. It's our brain's filing cabinet. It helps our brain organise, sort and retrieve information. We generalise many things in our world. The words we hear, the thoughts we have and the behaviours we see. For example, if you did a good presentation today and last week, you may believe you are a good presenter. Alternatively, you may fail your driving test once and start believing you are not a good driver. So this is why when 2 people have the same stimulus, they may not have the same response. In order to make sense of the world and to navigate through the world effectively, we make use of social and individual constraints and have another set of filters. These constraints refer to the conditioning that we go through on account of being part of a particular society or following a specific culture. This conditioning shapes, among other things, our beliefs, values, the way we understand language and words, our behaviours, and so on. The first of these filters is beliefs. They are the rules we live by. They are how the world works based on our experiences. Beliefs are not facts though, and we often mistake them for truths. We can have beliefs about people, about ourselves, about our relationships, about what is possible and what is not possible, and about our capabilities. For example, if we think we are not good at public speaking, then we will dread public speaking and not partake in any speaking opportunities. Beliefs then act as sort of self-fulfilling prophecies. They block us to what we can do. If you believe you are not a very sociable person, it will make you act in a certain way that may actually put the other person off. And so it confirms your belief about yourself. If you believe you're a social person, then you'll bring a different energy to the conversation. People will consider you friendly and sociable. Beliefs either empower or disempower us. They are essentially our on-off switch for our ability to do anything in the world. In the process of working with someone's beliefs, it's important to find out what beliefs they have that cause them to do what they do. We also want to find out disempowering beliefs, the ones that do not allow them to do something and could be holding them back. If you study NLP and become an NLP practitioner, then you will learn how to do a belief change process with another person. This will help change someone else's beliefs and empower them to do better things. It unlocks their potential and takes away those limiting belief barriers. Next is values. Values are aspects that are important to us. They are a deep unconscious belief system about what's important and what's good or bad to us. Values change with context too. You probably have certain values about what you want in a relationship too, and different values for what you want in business or at work. Values are how we evaluate things. They are how we decide whether our actions are good or bad or right or wrong. And they are how we decide about how we feel about our actions. Examples of life values are health and financial independence. Work values could be challenge or career progression. Our values will influence our choices as they reflect back what's important to us. Values are an important filter, as if something is important to you, you will focus your attention on it and tend to delete other stuff. For example, one person may value good food and when going to a restaurant comment on the quality of the meals. Another person may value good service and notice how attentive the waitress was. So values are important to us. The next filter is language. Language describes experiences. They are not the experience itself. Often people's language will influence their view of the world. For example, bilingual people frequently say that they feel or behave differently when speaking one language compared to another. Another is metaprograms. In NLP, metaprograms are deep filters. They tend to determine how we think as opposed to what we think. An example of a metaprogram is our direction filter. People can be either motivated towards something they want or away from something they don't want. These two ends of the spectrum are known as the carrot or the stick, or push and pull. For example, someone who is motivated by achieving their goals and targets has a towards approach, whereas another person might be highly motivated to avoid failure and be considered away from motivated. By knowing about our own and other people's deep filters, we can gain greater insight into how people tick and therefore be able to influence and motivate them with greater ease. There are 48 meta-programs, which are covered in far more detail on an NLP Master Practitioner course. The next filter is attitudes. Our attitudes will greatly influence our approach to a situation. An optimistic attitude or outlook means that the person finds good in whatever is happening. A glass half empty approach will therefore be pessimistic and negative. So our attitude will affect the way we approach something and therefore affect the results we get. The next filter is our memories. Some psychologists say that the present moment plays a very small part in our behaviour and the results we get. They believe that as we get older, our reactions in the present are more and more just reactions to gestalts. A gestalt is a collection of memories that are organised in a certain way. In NLP coaching, we use timeline work to make changes in our memories for a positive response in our future. The last filter is the decisions that we have made in the past. Decisions may create new beliefs or may just affect our perceptions through time. The problem with many decisions is that they were made either unconsciously or at a very early age. So all of these filters affect our internal representation. Now, an internal representation is made up of different qualities. This is our model of the world. An internal representation is made up of pictures, sounds, feelings, smells, tastes, internal dialogue and self-talk. The internal representation will impact your emotional state, and your state will impact your behaviour and what you do and how you do it. And this determines the results you achieve. In addition, you will notice that your physiology will impact your state, and your state will influence your internal representation. The NLP Communication Model indicates that the map is not the territory. And so the internal representation that we make about an outside event are not necessarily the event itself. Think about the example of an Ordnance Survey map or Google Maps. It is a representation of the environment. These maps might be a good way of showing a route from A to B, however it will not show the complexity of the terrain, the inclines or declines or any other obstacles along the way. So how we perceive reality is only as good as our map. I'm sure we have all used sat-nav before and found that it has taken us to somewhere it shouldn't have. That the map was in some way incorrect. The map was faulty. Similar to our own map, if we have a faulty map, we will perceive things very differently to others. So this is where NLP comes in. It helps us update our map, it changes our filters, it helps us manipulate our internal representations, which impacts how we perceive and feel things about the world around us. When communicating, it is always useful to have this model in mind. It will help you understand where a person might be coming from. You'll be able to ask more insightful questions and help the other person feel differently about their situation. By helping another person update their map, you are empowering them to have greater flexibility in their approach, in their speech and in their behaviours. So just to summarise then, we take information through our senses, it is then filtered. Once filtered, we create an internal representation which determines how we perceive things, which in turn influences our mental state, the way we feel. Our mental state then influences our physical state, our physiology, which in turn influences our responses, behaviours and the results we get in our lives. NLP coaches are not really helping the client create a change directly in their reality, but in their map of reality. Once the map changes, the client's ability to cope with reality improves, which finally creates a change in the client's responses, behaviours and results. Here's an experiment for you. Whenever a problem comes up in your life, just ask yourself, is this problem really real? Or is it just part of my internal map? Just using this simple technique will get you some surprisingly good results. Get in touch and let me know how you go. Okay, that's it for this one. You'll see me in the next.